Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane with Rob Lewis and Brent Hubbs. A lot of questions here on Tennessee football, Tennessee recruiting, basketball, baseball, transfer portal. Did I mention recruiting? All that and more coming up here over the course of the next 40 or so minutes. So let's dive down into the questions. We'll start with SysVol. Fast forward to the end of fall camp. Aguilar provides more pop, can push the ball down the field better than Merklinger / GMac, but can also be a little loose with the football. Merk runs the offense a little bit more methodically with fewer mistakes, fewer risk, and fewer big plays. Who are you going out there for game number one? Who are you trotting out there for game number one?
Well, I mean, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, I know what the coach's answer and Hubbard's answer is going to be the safe guy, but give me the dude that slings it down the field. I mean, my answer is going to be way different than Josh Heupel's. I mean, and I would expect it to be. I would much rather see a guy that's exciting, but you know, coaches are going to take fewer mistakes every time. Would you not agree, Hubbard?
Yeah, I would 90% of the time. Here's the one thing I'll say about Josh Heupel and Joey Halsley. How many times have we heard them say, let it rip, right? Let it rip. I mean, Hendon Hooker put himself in a position where he wasn't really a factor to be the starter in 21 because he played conservative football in the spring and in fall camp. He didn't let it rip. And now he obviously grew into letting it rip and letting it go. But I think there's a part of Josh Heupel that is interested in the ball going vertically down the field and throwing some guys open and maybe taking some chances in some windows and not waiting till a guy is wide open. I think it's a cop-out answer, Eric. I think that the better answer is they're going to play the guy who processes faster. Mm-hmm. Whoever makes the fastest decisions, because that's going to take care of the ball better. But I tend to kind of think they may want to they may gunsling it a little bit. Now, I mean, obviously, if this is a guy who's putting the ball in harm's way on a regular basis, then that's a total different deal. But I think if you look at Josh Heupel's history, his quarterbacks don't throw a lot of interceptions, and I think he's had some slingers. I don't think that he's had just a bunch of conservative guys playing the quarterback position in his time. I mean, I don't think anybody calls Drew Lock in his days at Missouri, Rob, a real conservative guy. I mean, he's a slinger. So I don't know. I tend to think they may go with the guy who's a bit more aggressive and a bit more willing to go vertically down the field with the ball as somebody who's just Johnny check down, if you will.
Yep, I think we're going to go 3 for 3 here. I mean, you obviously have to weigh the risk reward, and I understand you're talking about fall camp here, but like, you know, if you consistently say, let's go the first third of the season or whatever, you consistently put the ball in harm's way, you're turning the football over, you're completing 50-something% of your passes, like 55, 56, and I understand his completion percentage was not much better than that last year, talking about Joey Aguilar, then that's not good. But if you are slinging it out there, you know, completing balls down the field, you know, touchdowns are there, and then you sprinkle in a turnover every once in a while, you compare that to just a conservative game plan from your quarterback position, I'll take the higher risk with greater reward all day long. That's just kind of me, especially when you have what we assume, Brent, will be a decent run game and hopefully a pretty good defense.
Well, that was going to be my other point, Rob. I think you probably lean a little more towards conservative play, you know, a little more cautious with the ball if you feel like your defense can really shut people down. And suddenly now you're playing, you don't have to play 40 points to win the football game, right? I mean, I think that factors into some of your equation too. Like, where are you defensively? You know, now some would say you can take more risks because you've got a defense. I mean, that defense last year was terrific in sudden change situations. But I think it's where's your complementary pieces to it all? Run game, and then where's your defensive complementary piece to that? Might affect a little bit of how aggressive you got to be. I mean, in 21, they had to score 50 points. Mm-hmm. And they knew it. So you had to go and you had to sling the ball around the yard because you had to score a bunch of points. You don't have to do that as much now with where Tim Banks has brought this.
Where you can take the foot off the pedal on the road at Oklahoma last year and just rely on your run game and your defense to win games where obviously, Rob, you couldn't do that in 2021.
So. No, and I think Josh coached differently. I mean, very obviously. I mean, the past couple of years than he did before. And, you know, I mean, I'm not obviously that's a strength to be adaptable, but I mean, he showed the past couple of years that, you know, it's not balls to the wall, you know, all the time, and he can lean on the defense and kicking game.
Yeah.
There's a question coming up. Sorry to cut you off. There's a question coming up later in the mailbag, and we'll leave it at that. But like, you have a good defense, have a good run game. Do you need whoever's the starting quarterback to be better than Nico was last year? And sure, if it's all created equal, then technically no. But that's that's banking on your defense being right there. There's obviously a big injury in the secondary, and you're losing Dylan Sampson, but I still think Tennessee's going to run the football pretty well.
Well, but you can't get shut out in the first half of the
for sure. Yeah.
What's fascinating about Josh Heupel is he punts it from midfield and plays field position on one possession, and then the next time he goes for it from his own 21. And you're like,
there was one game from his own 12.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah, just because he was mad. I mean, I think they ended up punting anyway, like into the half.
Yeah, I'm like, there's absolutely like, what are we doing type deals sometimes. Yeah. And then, he plays some games where he just totally plays field position, and it's absolutely the right play. So he's gotten better at playing field position, but there's still I'm mad, we're going to go for it wherever we are on the field, mindset that pops up every now and then. We saw it last year for sure.
All right, let's play the over-under game. This is from the A-Dog. Quarterback stats for Tennessee in 2025. Whoever's the quarterback, will Tennessee throw for more than 2,006? Will he throw for more than 2,616 yards, Rob?
I was trying to I looked at Nico's stats earlier. I'm going to say, give me under.
Well, there's going to be a common theme here regarding Nico's stats here.
I was going to say, I know. But I was going to say, the reason I say that, I think there's going to be more than one person play.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Completion percentage 63.8. I will go under. Touchdowns for whoever Tennessee's starting quarterback is. And again, like Rob said, if you're working on the impression, there's going to be multiple ones. Maybe it's a lot of unders, but under 19.
I think I'm going to take the over on that one by just a bit. I think they're going to connect on more big plays this year. But again, you're unproven at receiver. That's the part of the quarterback equation that you have to factor in there too, is you're unproven at the – because I'm looking at this not as an individual quarterback. I'm just saying the quarterback played this year. As an offense, do they throw for more than 2,600 yards and these numbers? I'm going to take the over on touchdowns, but that's banking a lot on the receivers.
Under that philosophy, I would take the over on picks as well at 5. The last 2 years, Tennessee's starting quarterback has thrown 5 interceptions. Nico in 2021 threw 3 and then 2 in 22. But, multiple guys, I think it'll be more than 5. Or say it's just Joey Aguilar. I have faith that if Joey Aguilar starts every game for Tennessee, he's going to throw less than 14 picks. But I could see it being more than 5, so I'll take the over there. Interesting one here, rushing yards, 358.
If Aguilar's your starter all year long, maybe you take the over. But if he's not, then I'm taking the under.
I'll just say under.
I will take over the 3 for rushing touchdowns as well. And again, all those numbers right there, those were Nico Iamaleava's stats from.
Speaking of that, rush, how weird is that? He had 3 rushing touchdowns on the year, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns in the bowl game in his first start.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, that was very surprising. And like his rushing touchdowns, Vanderbilt was 1, Ohio State was 1. They kind of turned him loose there at the end. RWDYvawl from a fans
State for like 25 yards, which are like, hey, that's going to be part of the offense. And it's like, no, it's not.
No, not really. From a fan's point of view, the secondary recruiting has been average to slightly above average the last 2 years with high school kids. What does the staff need to do to get more high-end talent in that room? Is it as simple as pay more NIL?
Well, I mean, I think the NIL thing is everybody's easy answer to everything, right? Like it's just you got to pay more money. You got to pay more money. I think Matt said this on the podcast that was on for Tuesday. This particular recruiting class, the defensive backfield, is probably not as elite as it's been in the past. And again, I mean, I think it's about getting your fit more than it is your star deal. I mean, Boo Carter's a player, obviously. That was a good get. Ricky Gibson can play. We all thought Jordan Matthews was going to be a really good player. It didn't materialize there. He was highly regarded. He was more highly regarded than Jamad McCoy.
Or Ricky Gibson in that same class.
Ricky Gibson in that same class. So it's about fit. It's about development. You got to go recruit talented guys. There's no doubt about that. But you got to recruit the right fit. I mean, Yeah, there's some NIL stuff in there. I'm a little surprised that Tennessee doesn't get maybe a little more credit from fans and maybe even some in the recruiting world for the development of defensive backs with this coaching staff. I mean, Jalen McCullough's he's playing significant time in the National Football League for the Los Angeles Rams. Willie Martinez's history through the years, he's got guys in the NFL who are playing, who were not the highest regarded players coming out of high school. Emmanuel Mosley was a 2-star. I think Cam Sutton was a 3-star. Now we know Cam Sutton messed up his career with off the field things in the NFL, but I mean, he was a player. Who else am I missing? Alante Taylor was
Theo Jackson.
Theo Jackson
Jackson's a good one.
Theo Jackson was going to be back in the mid-state, working in private business until Willie Martinez came along. And now he's just got a nice payday with the Minnesota Vikings. So I think Tennessee should get more credit for their development at that position in the secondary than what they're getting. I think it's there's a lot of talk about who you recruit or how high level you recruit at, and they don't take a look at, they've put as many guys in the NFL at that position as anybody has put in the NFL since Josh Heupel's been here, Rob, haven't they? I mean, maybe say defensive line.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say, and I would argue that when you're talking about the development, it's more profound in the secondary. I mean, like they put guys in the NFL for the defensive line, but nobody's surprised James Pierce was in the NFL.
Yeah.
People are surprised Theo Jackson just signed a second contract.
Right. And that Jalen McCullough's a starter,
Pine wants to know, anyone creating any buzz or having a good summer in any sport? Rob, any basketball notes you want to share before we get to football?
I don't want to go crazy, but yeah, I mean, Nate Ament looks like what you hope the number 2 recruit in the country looks like when you sign him. I mean, I'm not saying looks like Kevin Durant right now, but nobody is disappointed in Nate Ament. Jacoby Gillespie having a really nice summer, but I don't want to punch the hyperbole button too much, but some quiet confidence, I think, percolating from the Pratt Pavilion from what. So
you heard it right here, Rob Lewis. Nate Ament is a top 3 draft pick next year.
I mean, that could be the fact. That could be a fact without me even punching the hype button.
Yeah, no doubt. In baseball, a lot of guys playing summer ball. Levi Clark's swinging a really good bat in Cape. Tegan Coons has been phenomenal in 2 starts. Been shorter starts, but really, really good. Tyler Myatt is tearing up the Appalachian League. He's going to move to the Cape here soon, but he's tearing up the Appalachian League. There's other ones, too, that I'm forgetting. I mean, Stone Lawless hit a home run the other day, but I think Levi's having a really good summer. Oh, Ariel. Now, granted, Ariel had 6 hits in 1 game, an Appy League record, but he is scorching the baseball, which is a great sign offensively, right, for Burlington right now. So those are some guys.
Would you rather hear Eric Kane say the Cape or Paul Fortenberry say the DMV?
Oh, well, or the I-4 corridor.
The I-4 corridor. That's a good one, too. It's a good one.
I mean, the Cape is what everybody refers to, summer baseball. You're playing baseball at the Cape. Some people play Cape Cod League, but a lot of people say up the Cape. I think Paul actually created the I-4 corridor. I think that is a Paul Fortenberry.
I think he wants you to think he created the I-4 corridor.
I don't know, man. I'm not sure we heard it many places before Paul Fortenberry dropped in on the I-4 corridor down through in Florida there. So, football guys, I mean, I think and again, I'm the conservative one because we've all done the Woody Quinns and we've all had these guys who have had great summers and you think they're going to be the star. And I mean, not to sound like a coach, the game is played in pads, but I think what you're seeing out of these guys this summer that you like is just the physical development. I mean, where David Sanders is right now compared to where he was the start of spring physically is vastly different. Ethan Utley looks dramatically different. I think you're looking at guys who are creating some definition. I mean, Mike Matthews is a guy who's gotten more defined physically. I mean, he's the weight room is being kind to him. So I do think physically this team is developing with those young guys the way that you want to with the weight that they're adding. I mean, Deshaun Brame looks significantly different than he did when he first arrived. And And that's important because I think there's going to be a lot of areas where this football team is going to play a lot of youth, and those guys need to physically get themselves ready. And I think they've had a good summer to this point. Now you're just trying not to get anybody hurt. Like you got to keep working, but man, everybody's going no pulled hamstrings, no growing injuries. Let's not do anything goofy here in the next 26 days before you go to the practice field. So that's the balance for Kurt Smith and the strength staff here over the course of the next 3.5 weeks or so.
I mean, strength and conditioning is year round, don't get me wrong, but you're just trying to hand that baton off. You got one more month. Hand that baton off and say, all right, they're yours.
And I'll be honest with you, Tennessee has probably had, Rob, too many muscle, soft tissue, whatever we call that phrase now, injuries going into fall camp the last few years. You had Dylan Sampson, you had Jalen Wright. They've had a couple of running backs, a couple of receivers who were limited because of some hamstrings and quads or growing bull. I mean, you got to be really cautious with those guys down the stretch here because you need them to be ready to go in August when you get into the deep part of camp.
Nashville 615, how involved will Seth Latrell be in the offense and the game planning? Is it similar to Joe Brady at LSU, or will it be completely detached? Brent, I think game planning wise, he's going to have a big role, right? He's going to be sitting at the table in the room for sure, playing a big role with Joey Halsley and Josh Heupel, but really it's a cumulative effort. I mean, that entire offensive staff in terms of the game planning, they all, kind of pull their own weight in that regard. And then, of course, only one or two guys calls plays on Saturdays.
Yeah, I don't think you brought him in here to ignore his opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, Josh Heupel obviously trusts him. They have a long-standing relationship. He sees it from a head coaching perspective. When you're talking about putting a game plan together, we're talking about earlier, like quarterback, how aggressive are you? Well, I mean, his viewpoint of that's a little different because he understands the balance of, leaning on a defense if you need to, complementary football, because he's sat in the chair Josh Heupel's sitting in. So I think he's not just a sounding board. I think he's a resource whose opinion is going to carry weight in the room. And so I think he's going to be, a large part of that collaborative effort. I think that's why he's here. Otherwise, I don't think he would have come here. Because here's the thing, Rob, he didn't need the money, right? I mean, he got buyout money. That's like, I mean, he could have gone and been an analyst somewhere. He could have taken the year off or done whatever he wanted to do. So it's not like he was desperate for a job. I think he came here with the understanding that he was going to have a chance to be a part of things with Josh Heupel here, and that meant his opinion counts.
No, I think pretty clear. I mean, he wants. My biggest thing, like what you said, Hubbard, he wants to be here, and he wouldn't be here if he was going to be, in an echo chamber.
Yes,
I mean, because he could sit on the beach and cash checks for a year.
Well, I mean, listen, you could have used him in a much smaller role and sent him a login and said, "Hey, I want you to do a self scout on us every week," and he could have done that from wherever he wanted to. Yeah. If that was the only role you're going to have him in, I think you're just going to have him in a much bigger role because he's in your building every day, and I just think that's part of it.
Recruiting question here from Nashville 615. Without highly rated new names appearing, would need to land almost all of the below to have a top 10 class, ? What's your confidence level? The names he lists below, Keys, Hyder, Darius Gray, Wyatt, TJ White, who has jumped in the boat, Braden Rouse, we'll see where that one stands, Craig Tutt, Kamari Blair, Darion Albert, who committed the other day, Combe, Darrell Rivers, and Javonte Smith. Smith's set to go next week, I believe. But seeing that group of names there, Brent, do you think Tennessee needs most of to secure a top 10 class?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would. I think they would have to. And I don't think they're going to, I mean, they're not going to sweep that. They're not going to land all those guys. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Keys. We'll see what happens with Hyder. They're obviously moving forward and pushing towards a top 10 class. I think at the end of the day, it will be somewhere around the top 10, either just inside or just outside the top 10 is probably where this class is going to end up being when it's all said and done. But, they've got to close with some of those names on the list for sure. I mean, that's whether – and it's not about they got to close for ranking purposes. They got to close because those are talented players they need in your program. And we'll see how they finish out with some of those guys for sure.
Interesting topic here from ProvidenceVol. I did this on Locked On Vols a couple of days ago, Rob, and I think 2 out of the 3 are very simple to name. The question is, who will Heupel select for SEC Media Days, and who would you select to make the Vols' appearance more interesting? Rob, I think 2 for sure, slam dunk easy. Because
I thought about this one.
Yeah.
Who are they?
Well, Miles Kitselman and
that was
Arian
that
Carter.
was my one.
Okay,
then,
Arian Carter as well, because they brought both those guys out to answer the Nico
that
questions.
Was probably, I thought Miles was a slam dunk, and I thought Arian was likely, but I had a hard time getting to 3.
Now, I agree with you, Brent. I have a hard time getting to the third one as well.
Because you're not going to take a quarterback.
Nope.
No, not taking a quarterback. You're going to take. I think you're going to take Arian Carter, Miles Kitselman, and Jackson Moy.
Yeah. I think I thought Moy too, and then I thought it was so weird that you bring it because inside the program, obviously they love him, but he's a guy that's played negligibly. But yeah, I wondered about that. I thought Moy seemed likely just because of the respect he has. But
I thought Moy, maybe an Eason.
Eason would be entertaining.
Yeah,
Eason would be the entertainment factor because he just canted and there's no telling what he might say in that world. You could take Eason, but I know Rodney Garner has challenged Jackson Moy to lead that room, and I think Jackson Moy is a pretty good ambassador. So I think it's probably ultimately going to be Jackson would ultimately be Jackson Moy if I was making that call. But if they choose Eason, there's nothing wrong with Bryce and Eason being there. I find Joshua Josephs one of the more interesting interviews.
I was going to say no chance he's going.
No, I just because he just candid. Like he talked about himself. Like I wasn't very good last year, and he's pretty honest with himself about everything. So is Deshaun Bishop. I think Deshaun Bishop's a great story. I don't think you're taking him down there, but I do think he's a terrific story and is a good interview. He would be compelling to some people, because those are the types of stories that some national people are looking for, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly in a day and age where it's all about the portal and NIL and all this other stuff. He's a local kid who's got a chance to be starting running back at Tennessee. Walked on, that type deal. Those that would not be a bad choice. I don't think that's who it would be, but I think Kitselman's your offensive representative. I don't think there's anybody else that you're going to bring out for representation for your offense at this point in time. Nobody on the offensive line's there. You're not taking a quarterback. And I don't think you're taking a receiver. So Kitselman's your offensive representative. I think that's the slam dunk.
No, I completely agree with all that. Joshua Josephs a couple of springs ago, and he's like, we got me, we got James, we got Dom, I'm just like, oh, this is great. This is great. Oh, man. But I agree with you. I think he's a really good interview. And Deshaun Bishop has come miles and miles since being interviewed by myself prior to a Rivalry Thursday game back in 2021 at Campbell County when he rushed for 6 touchdowns. I didn't think we were going to make it through that 90-second little live TV hit. But he might
have been the best interview of spring practice.
Yeah, I agree.
His interview might have been the best interview because he was as personal and as raw in a good way about just kind of his journey as you'll hear anybody. It was really fun to listen to, really fun to do.
Carry the Fight 42. How will NIL and rev share impact football coaching job security moving forward? If boosters can pony up 8 figures for a buyout, wouldn't they be better off going all in on the portal/recruiting with the money rather than finding a head coach and bringing in another?
I think they've gotten more job security, or is it just me?
Oh, I don't disagree with that. Look what happened to Mike Norvell.
Or Sunbelt Billy.
Yeah, or Gundy, right? They go to Gundy at Oklahoma State. Hey, we're going to restructure your contract. We're doing some things for NIL. Come on back and coach. I think the question is exactly right. You're sitting there. If you're a donor, you're the AD and everything. You're sitting there going, "Can the guy coach? Is it a roster problem or is it a coaching problem?" And man, you better be 100% right that it's a coaching problem if you're going to make a change and pay $8 or $10 million for somebody to go away in a time where you need $20+ million for rev share. Then you got to get rid of a staff. Then you got to bring in a new staff. Now you're talking about spending an additional $20 million plus and changing your coaching staff.
I'm waiting to see it affect the contracts on the front end. Don't you think it has to at some point in time? I think it's affected decisions. I don't know. I think Buzz Williams at Texas A&M was a great example. Last year, I don't think he's good. They make the tournament, but he's not great. And so they didn't want to read. They didn't want to read. It was time for him to be extended. Mm-hmm. But he clearly was he wasn't going to get fired. But they don't want to pony up. They don't want to back it up and extend him and give him more money for doing an okay job. And I think I'm waiting to see if that happens more across college, across all sports. If the buyouts come down.
Well, and here's the other thing I wonder is how willing is everybody to keep their head coach's contract whole? And keep it at 5 years all the time, or if it's a 6-year deal or 7-year deal.
Instead of just automatic rolling it over.
Instead of this, the automatic rollover and the buyout jumps out, do you say, well, we'll look at it at the end of the year? I mean, think about it. I mean, and listen, I don't think he's in any trouble, but I mean, Josh Heupel went to the college football playoff, did not get a new deal, didn't get a raise, didn't get an extension. And I just wonder, in this day and age where the money is and how much it costs to do business, is it going to be this, well, he went to a bowl game, so we're just going to roll him over every year? Are we going to get away from that?
That's what
to make sure the buyout stays more reasonable, because the buyouts are obviously way out of control. I mean, A&M's dealing with that right now. I mean, because of what they had to do on the football side of things. I think those are the situations that scare ADs. Of like, man, I don't want to be in a deal where I got to pay $20 million or $80 million or some crazy number to make a guy go away.
So do you think that outweighs the counterpoint from the poster here saying, with a larger financial commitments, are boosters expecting a quicker return on investment? Do you think that outweighs the notion of wanting to make a quick change because it's like, I'm already giving all this money, like, go win now?
Well, I think the expectation is to win now if you're putting high dollars into your roster. I mean, I do think there's the expectation of that. But I think the question that everybody has to ask that you look at is it a coaching problem or a roster problem? That I think that's the interesting decision, because always before it was a coaching problem, right, Rob? If your roster wasn't good enough, it was the coaching staff and the head coach's fault because he couldn't recruit. He wasn't doing a good enough job in recruiting. Now the question is it a roster problem because of roster assembly, roster retention through NIL, financing, all those things, or is it a coaching problem? There's a little bit of a divide there for the first time that we've really never seen.
And if you pay a $20 million buyout, what's that doing to your NIL budget for the next 2 years?
Yeah.
How are you going to go back up to, booster X and say, hey, can you give us $4 million for the buyout and keep kicking in, the $2 million to the NIL that you have been for the last 3 years?
Yep. Asking a lot. Bud_Fox, how would you define a successful football season for Tennessee in 2025? Rob, you kick this one off.
9 wins.
I think you need to be in the college football conversation. I'm not saying if you don't make the field, then it's a bust. That's a wasted season.
I think you'd be there with 9 wins.
No, I agree. Yeah, so I'm thinking 9 wins in the regular season. For me, would define that as a successful season. But again, like, I don't want to say that's just the plateau, but like you need to be knocking on the door to the college football playoff. And if you miss out, I mean, it's understandable. But I think your roster is still good enough to definitely be in that conversation.
Well, here's the question. Should 9 wins be the standard when you look at this schedule? Like, did you do anything special if you won 9 games?
No, I'm not saying you did anything special.
Right. And that's successful. That's a successful year. You're 9 wins, lose to Florida, Georgia, Alabama.
I'm not saying that's special.
Right. But you're saying
if you win less than 9, that's bad.
Yeah, I think to be in the conversation for a playoff spot, you have to have one of those signature wins. And, you look at the schedule, it's got to be one of those 3 games. And that's a tough sell, because on the road at Alabama and Florida, you ain't won there in forever. And then, of course, you got Georgia way early in the season when you're trying to figure out who your quarterback is. But I think if you're going to be in that conversation, you have to have that signature win. Tennessee had that signature win against Alabama last year, and that really, really helped them. And, I mean, ESPN tried to put – the committee tried to put Alabama in the playoff with, 3-4 losses up until the very end, right? So
I'll say this. If you win one of those 3, I think it's a pretty special year given how young this football team is going to be. Now, some of that's decision to be young because you invested in this recruiting class heavily, you roster retention, some of those things. But I mean, this is a pretty young football team, and there's a lot of newness, a lot of questions on this team in a lot of spots like we haven't seen the last couple of years. You find a way to win at Florida or at Alabama or beat Georgia for the first time. That's pretty. That's with this team. I think that's a pretty dang good accomplishment. That's pretty special right there to be able to do that, particularly when you talk about playing Georgia early. I know a lot of people are high on the talent of this offensive line. Think this offensive line can be better than they've been, and maybe they can be, but they haven't played a lot of football. And you're rolling out there with a bunch of receivers who haven't played much football, a right tackle who's never played in the college game before. You got your best corner coming off an injury. When's he going to be available? There's questions. Now, I think the schedule sets you up for 9 wins, but I think it's a pretty good feat if you win one of those other 3 games, with 2 of them being on the road, and then the one at home against Georgia, which you've just not had much success against at all.
Yeah, the only team that you haven't had success with against with Josh Heupel. Here's an interesting question from KickingVOL. Hypothetical. Imagine NIL did not exist. Do you think that Tennessee football would land more 5 stars and highly rated 4 stars than they do now with NIL, just based on the success that Tennessee's had the last couple of years, facilities, staff? I mean, think about this, right? Like, in a 2 double-digit win seasons the last 4 years with Josh Heupel, Orange Bowl win, college football playoff, Citrus Bowl win, led the nation offensively one of those years, top 12, 13 defense. I mean, just based on all that, I mean, that's a pretty daggone good resume. So I understand where the question's coming from. Do you think without NIL, Tennessee would get better recruits than with NIL right now?
Based on what we've seen the last 4 years, I would say Tennessee's benefited more from NIL than fans want to give it credit for. I'm not saying the staff can't recruit, so don't read that, don't infer that. But I think NIL's been important, been significant in Tennessee's roster assembly of their high-end players. I don't know. I can't sit here and say they would have won a bunch of those things head up against somebody if there wasn't an NIL factor in there. Now, for some of them, the NIL numbers were pretty even, and Tennessee just out-recruited them. They deserve credit for it. But there's been some other times, they went and got a guy, and that's a part of why this roster is that way, right?
I would argue that the early 2000s and late 90s, when Phillip really had it rolling, they're recruiting better than they have been the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, way better. Yeah. Way better.
Yeah.
With no NIL.
Yeah, back then. I'm not sure this staff can recruit the way that they did back then.
And they were more successful probably on the field.
Yeah,
I'm saying late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the mid 90s on. I mean, you take it from about 96, 97 on. It was, I mean, you're sitting there in the 97 class has got Fred Weary, Cozy Coleman, Deion Grant, and Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when I was knee deep in it, like covering it.
Yeah,
early 2000s. The success on the field was comparable to now. I mean, they weren't winning SEC championships, but they were going to Atlanta, Citrus Bowls, and I would say the recruiting was significantly better.
David Keith fan, I know in football that there is a drop-dead date that a player can't transfer within the SEC. Has there been discussions of a similar concept for spring sports? There seems to be a bunch of players moving within the conference in baseball and softball every year. Admittedly, it paid off for us getting 2 All-Americans this past year. I mean, that has to do with the spring transfer portal window, right? With the 2 for football compared to just the 1 window predominantly for the other sports.
Yeah, you can't curtail it in one transfer portal window. I mean, you can't say, okay, during this window, you've got 7 days to go in the portal, and on the 8th day, you can't transfer within your conference. I mean, that's just – it's different for football because football has 2 transfer portal windows. The question is football ever going to decide on a transfer portal window for this year, for this fall, this winter or this spring? What are they going to do there? But to answer his question, no, there's been no discussion of that because there's 1 window for those sports, whereas football is in a 2-window deal.
Now, for baseball, there is a window in like December, January, but that's for like abnormal situations. Alberto Ozuna going from Division II up to Division I.
Yeah, that would work out well.
Yeah, it didn't work out well. My thing is with the rosters, depending on how many they actually allow. I know they're saying 34 right now, but are they really only going to allow 34 on your roster for the fall? I don't know. Say there's a couple of those that they allowed to bring in over. I think that's a tough sell to the kid. But my point is, could there be another window for baseball in the month of December or November that we see popping here in the next couple of years.
My thing on, I mean, I'm with you, but my thing on that is, how do you sell a kid on coming in and being over the 34 with the understanding in January, basically you're gonna cut some people in December, because where are they going to land in December?
Exactly.
How many other schools are going to have open roster spots at that point? It's not like somebody's going to go, hey, we're down 4, we need to add 4 in December. People are going to be cutting to get to the hard number. They're not going to have room to add to anybody. I don't know how you sell a kid on being over the roster number when you get to January and go, hey, you got to leave midterm, or you can stay as a student, but you're not going to be on you're not going to be an aide. You're not going to play. You're not going to be a part of the team. Like, I don't know how you sell that one.
And again, yeah, that's the issue right there, because a lot of posters have been asking, like, well, what if injuries happen? What if injuries happen? I'm right there with you, man. Like, you're a couple injuries away from being in trouble, but everyone's dealing with that, saying, well, can't you bring 5 or 6 over and have like a practice squad? You can't tell that kid there you're on no aid, and the only chance you have is a Hail Mary chance that someone gets hurt, your teammate gets hurt, you take his spot, or you have to transfer down and play junior college. It's a tough situation to be in for sure. But I don't know. I think I said this a month ago. I'm saying that I still think that there's more questions that need some answers here that coaching staffs are seeking right now. 2-for-1 question here. Do you guys think that this year's defense is talented enough to duplicate what they did last year? Yes or no?
To me, I think it depends on the health of Jamon McCoy.
And you lost a couple of high NFL draft picks up front. Pearson, ONL.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think one of the things that people don't understand is how different they could play third down last year because of where they were in the secondary with McCoy. People also didn't recognize and pay attention during games. As games went on, they started flipping McCoy to the best receiver. You go back and look. That's not what they do, and they certainly didn't do that to start games. But as the game went along, there were times they would flip, and McCoy would go to defend the best receiver in those in situations in football games. So I think the question is, where are you at corner with McCoy? And then can you finish at the quarterback? They need more sacks than they did a year ago. I wrote this in the story that ran on Wednesday. I think if you're talking about what questions need to be answered defensively for this defense to duplicate or be as good or better than they were a year ago, for me, it's you got to stay healthy at linebacker because I don't like their depth there. 2, you got to finish at the quarterback better. You got to affect the quarterback more than you did. And thirdly, Rob, you got to play in the middle of the field in space at the second level. Because how many people are going to motion somebody and start running some of that Ohio State, stuff on everybody? Now, Chip Kelly was terrific, okay? But I think some of that second level pass coverage stuff has got to mesh better than it has, because that's where I think some people are going to attack Tennessee, Rob.
I think Tim Mason will stop the run. I mean, maybe not at a dominant level, but I mean, they're not going to get gashed. But I mean, man, you're talking about pressuring the quarterback, being better at it, and you just lost, 2 dudes who were
really good at it.
Really good at it. And I like their starting linebackers. I think Aaron Carter's really, really good, and behind him, I'm not sure what you got. I mean, I think Caleb Herring, Joshua Joseph, somebody really got to step up on the edge. They
definitely do. I mean, the TFL numbers have been there all 4 years. It's been phenomenal. I think of the 4 years, 3 of them, they've had over 100 TFLs. And like the one year they
really
did,
disruptive.
They had like 95 or whatever. But you got to finish at the quarterback for sure. This is the question I was referencing earlier. So that was the first part of the question. Do you think that Tennessee will be able to lean on defense in the run game similar to last year to potentially get to a 9 or 10 win season? If so, the expectation of what we need from Aguilar, Merklinger from a production standpoint doesn't seem very high. This is something I've talked about a lot this offseason. And again, it's all black and white and easy on paper, and the game's not played on paper. I recognize that. Not all things are created equal. But I still believe this defense is going to be really good. I do. I think Tennessee's going to run the football effectively. Will it be as good as last year? Maybe not. But I think Tennessee's going to run the football effectively because it's what Tennessee's done every single year. Having said all that, go back to those Nico stats, right? Do you need a quarterback to be even better than that? I think there's some give and take there. Obviously, I think the quarterback needs to be better in some regards than not in order to reach a 9-win or surpass a 9-win season. But based on the schedule, in my opinion, and based on what you have on your roster, you don't need a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback to get in the playoffs. You just need him to do some things pretty well, protect the football, don't turn things over.
Well, the quarterback's got to play well in the big ball game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to beat Georgia, if you're going to have a chance to win on the road against Florida and Alabama, your quarterback better play well. I mean, that's the bottom line. Can you go beat some of these other teams, Rob, with average quarterback play? Yeah. I mean, I think you can. But I think if you're going to beat high-quality teams, you better get good quarterback play. And your quarterback play, I think Alabama's going to be better than they were a year ago, okay? I don't think Georgia's taken some big step back. Okay, I think Florida should be better when you talk about what they have at quarterback, and you're on the road there. So I don't think you can beat Alabama with a bad half of football at quarterback. Now, you could last year at home, and I would argue the second half against Alabama was Nico's high water mark maybe as a quarterback at Tennessee. So that kind of echoes my point. You want to beat one of those teams, Rob, you better go get good quarterback play. Can you win those other games with average quarterback play? I would say, yeah, you can.
Nothing to add.
Really? Nothing at all?
I mean, I just don't think you can overstress, quarterback in this league in the big games.
I'll add something to that. If you want to be better as a team, not just your quarterback, and Brent, you've been pounding this drum for years, got to be better in the red zone. You've got to be better in the red zone. And that kind of all goes back into this conversation. When you're beating the good teams, can't settle for field goals. Got to cash in.
Well, and the quarterback's got to play well in the red zone. Got to be a playmaker in the red zone. They haven't had. When everybody talks about what do you miss from Hendon Hooker,
he was so efficient.
Yeah, you missed the deep ball and the explosive plays, but what you really miss was they got inside the 20. He had a nose for the end zone. He could find the end zone. They were terrific in 22 in red zone offense. I mean, terrific. They haven't been close to that since.
They could run it in there. I mean, wasn't just throw it. I mean,
you had to defend him. I mean, you had to defend every skill guy on the field. You had to defend their legs in that area, not just the arm of the quarterback. You had to defend him, his ability to run the football and be effective doing that in the red zone.
And I thought Tennessee was going to use Nico more in that, running the football in the red zone. And until the end of the year, they just simply didn't. I thought that was a skill set that they could have exploited a little bit this year. But then, Nico left, and we'll see if they can do that with whoever is the quarterback.
You wonder, though. I mean, like, you do that, though, and then you got Gas Pipe play the second half against Mississippi State.
Right.
Hey.
And I think that was part of it. I think that was part of the thought process.
For sure.
Yeah. Scare money don't make money, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to go out there and get it sometimes.
Well, and here's the thing. To your point on that, I thought that's what they did a really good job of in 22, particularly early in the year with that. They did not, after the year before in 21, when Hendon Hooker's running an option at the goal line in a 5-touchdown lead against Missouri, and one of the goofier play calls I've seen in a while.
Yep.
The next year, they didn't run him. They ran him in big games.
Mm-hmm.
They did not run him meaningless. Like, he ran a lot in the Florida game because they needed him to run in the Florida game. There were other games they played, and obviously he got hurt running the football on that deal with South Carolina. They were managing his workload with his legs in 22. They were very much spot running him, critical situations in big games, which goes back to your point. Your quarterback's got to play well in big games, and you've got to turn him loose in those situations.
Couple of questions here from Athrun. Where does Tony go and find a left-handed pitcher? Transfer portal. And I'm not trying to be funny. I think Tennessee will get a left-handed pitcher from the transfer portal. And I think that's going to happen soon, in my opinion. Do any of the young o-linemen, not named David Sanders, get any run this season in the 2-deep?
Well, I mean, are you talking about freshmen or are you talking about young? I think Jesse Perry's going to be in the 2-deep, if not a starter.
Satterwhite's absolutely going to be in the 2-deep. Max Anderson will be in the 2-deep.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to by necessity, they're going to be guys in the 2-deep. But I do think they like some of those young guys who can play. I mean, you sit here looking at them. I mean, give me a 2-deep at tackle. I mean, there's a young guy in that outside of David Sanders. There's a young guy. I mean, if Lance Hurd got hurt, they probably flip David Sanders to left, and then you're playing Jesse Perry or Bennett Warren out there at right tackle. Is where you're going. So, yeah, absolutely. In the 2-deep, there's going to be young players.
Do you think Inge is going to force feed freshman linebackers this season? I do. Don't you guys? It's what he did with Edwin Spillman when he could last year. Of course, Edwin Spillman was hurt a lot, but force feeding a lot of those guys. That's what Brian John Marie did with some of these young guys playing now. I think they will, Brent.
I think they want to, Rob. I think the question is how quickly do they get those young guys ready because they missed spring practice due to shoulder surgery. So how far behind are they mentally? Now, I think the one guy at linebacker nobody's talking about is Brendan Ames. I think he'll play special teams. Do they play him some and put him a part of the rotation? And then how quick does Jadens get ready to play, coming off the shoulder stuff. So we'll see.
I'm looking for a big year from Ryan Scott. Redshirted last year.
I love Ryan Scott. He's a great guy.
Shout out Ryan Scott.
Hey, he'll play special teams. He'll be a big part of special teams for sure.
He got penalized one Rivalry Thursday game for having a huge play on fourth down, sacking the quarterback or whatever, and I think he said something and they flagged him, and I was so mad on this. I was trying to be so unbiased. I'm like, let as Tony Vitello would say, you make a play, let him talk, right? Let him talk. Going to Gatlinburg next week. Any new places to eat that you'd recommend in Gatlinburg or the Pigeon Forge area other than the Apple Barn?
No offense to Gatlinburg. I've not seen the city limits of Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge. I can't tell you the last time I was in either one. I don't know when I've been past Sevier County High School in Sevier County. So no offense to those. No offense to them. I don't make a lot of treks up that way.
Same.
I cannot remember the last time I was in Gatlinburg. I thought about that last night when I was putting these questions together. Third and Chavis with 2 more years of leverage. Any chance Dean Curley drops out of the top rounds and elects to come back for his junior season? I don't see that happening. SysVol looking toward the upcoming hoop season. Does this team have Final Four potential, Rob?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's coming off back-to-back Elite Eights, and I mean, obviously everybody restocks, but I think definitely Final Four potential. I mean, I'm not saying Final Four or bust, but sure. And I think that's the goal.
Robbie, don't you think basketball is more interesting because you can be old in a hurry?
Yeah.
Don't you think that makes postseason really fascinating?
I mean,
somebody can pop out of nowhere when you get old through the portal.
It's different. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not, and I get it. If fans don't like it, I get it. Trust me, because you're not growing old with guys, but you haven't done that in 20 years or 15 years. I mean, you've not had 4-year players, but yeah, I mean, I think it is fascinating because it's like it's roster building like at hyperspeed because you do it in football, but it just doesn't have the same, 2 or 3 guys just don't have the same impact that they do in basketball. I mean, so yeah, I mean, people change dramatically, but yeah, short answer, I definitely think Tennessee has Final Four potential. A lot depends on, how good a man is. And I mean, man, this might be sacrilegious. I think Tennessee can be better at point guard. So yeah, I think they got Final Four potential.
3 more questions here, pretty good ones. We'll go to wrong-handed first. How much will Tennessee's 2025 football roster be? Where does it stack up in the nation and in the SEC in terms of roster expense?
I don't know what the number is going to end up being. I mean, I think we're all trying to figure out what's real and not real in terms of the numbers that are being thrown out there. When you talk about rev share, what's front-loaded NIL money that was taken care of before rev share came into play? People are throwing out $35 million. $35 million from what date? I mean, it's not $35 million for the fall. Is it $35 million from January 1 through December? What's you can manipulate those numbers to look kind of however you want to make those numbers look, I guess. And so, I don't know where Tennessee is going to be. Listen, Danny White has said this on the record on multiple occasions. Tennessee is a part of the haves and the have-nots. That's a quote that basically says we're going to be competitive financially with where we need to be, with our roster. That's the way I take that quote. When he was talking about money and he's talking about his budget, he's talking about how much it's grown, and Tennessee is a part of the haves, not the have-nots. Tells me that Tennessee should be competitive year out and year in and year out with their roster expenses.
I feel like Tennessee's gonna be top 10, but probably not top 3 or 5.
Yeah, probably not.
That's my opinion. And I don't know how you quantify that.
Yeah, and again, I mean, how many people are trying to do it the way Tennessee's doing it, where they're trying to do it in all sports? Where you're spending the amount of money you're going to spend in basketball and women's basketball, baseball, and football and all those things. How many teams across the country, how many athletic departments across the country are really putting that level of investment into all those sports, as opposed to, a little bit of investment in maybe one of those secondary sports, or essentially no investment into one of those sports.
And time will tell, certainly, on, is that sustainable, and how long can you go and all that. DCE 1470 just had a curiosity. I would imagine the sources of info to draw from football to basketball recruiting dwarf baseball. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much harder is it to pull baseball recruiting portal info than it is to do the same with football and basketball, with 10 being the hardest? I'm not going to go on the scale. I'm not in the weeds with football and basketball like certainly Brent, Austin, and Rob are. I think for all sports, though, when you're covering recruiting, when you're covering portal, when you're just covering a team and trying to get information, there's good days, there's bad days. I think football, there's a much bigger operation.
We all agree the transfer portal sucks.
Grant and I had an extensive conversation. And when I say extensive, I mean 3 or 4 text messages shot back and forth talking about how much we hate covering the transfer portal.
Well, I mean, it's just different. I mean, I don't know about baseball, but I mean, it's the portal just different because I mean, in football or basketball, who the recruits are for months, sometimes years. I mean, in advance. I mean, they've been on unofficial visits. They've been on, the high school recruits. The portal. I mean, people on the message board don't want to hear it. It literally changes every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes a couple times during the day.
Yeah, it really does. It does.
Well, and you can do business in the portal with a guy who never comes to your campus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, hey, we did a Zoom call, got a commitment from him. Well, wait a minute.
What?
Wait, we're waiting on the official visit, right? And I mean, it happens really, really fast.
Garrett Wright, Tennessee's catcher outfielder, transfer from Bowling Green, never stepped foot on campus.
Yeah.
Or it's a kid, or it's you're right there. Kids going to commit, and then boom, hey, let's take a visit out here and see what this NIL offer is, and then you never hear from him again.
Well, and I don't want anybody feeling sorry for us. I'm just saying, and I know that's not what you're saying too, Rob. It's just it's so vastly different than covering high school recruiting.
Oh yeah,
it's just so different because it's speed dating. I mean, it's so fast, and it can be, you do 4 Zoom calls before lunch, and you might be done in the portal. You know what I mean? I mean, you might have half your portal class put together at that point in time. And the other factor too is kids in the transfer portal. Some of them just don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
Like they're adults. Like they're not interested in an edit. They're not interested in naming their top 7 schools. There is no process. It's a business decision. Me and my agent are going to see what deal's best for us, and we'll make a decision from there. And then I'll tweet out a graphic of where I'm going. And I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, I've had more transfers decline interviews the last couple of years than I've had high school kids decline interviews in the last 15. And I'm not mad at them. It's not that's their right. They're just like, man, I don't want to go through the process like that. I've done that deal. This is not what this is about. I'm just looking for my best home for football or my best basketball home.
How much playing time can I get? What's the NIL?
Yep.
What's the play time? What's the NIL?
And a lot of times, depending on who the agent is or, how involved and all that, I mean, the kid won't even talk to you. And again, not mad at the kid. It's just.
And the agents put out so much disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Much.
Yes.
Yeah. Big time.
I think the biggest, the best way I would describe it, though, for this question in regards to baseball, I think the operations are bigger for the other sports. So I think there's, at times, a chance to be more involved or more informed in some of the other things. But again, good days and bad days, and you just kind of go about it. Last question. If you could have been any Tennessee Vol athlete for one moment, who would it have been and why? I mean, there's so many you can choose from, Rob, but the first one when I read this last night, Aaron Combs, final out, locking down a national championship. I mean, it's recent, I get that, but I mean, that's the first thing that came to mind, and a national championship clinching out.
I'd probably be Peerless hauling that thing in the desert.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a great one.
I think. I mean,
or Al Wilson recovered a couple of fumbles against Florida.
Yeah, or Al Wilson. I mean, what would it be like to be in a locker room and just have the command that you have of everybody? I mean, you're sitting here as an underclassman and you're tearing into Peyton Manning and Leonard Little in Atlanta in '97. Like, I don't know what kind of, I don't know, power is the right word, but I have no idea what it feels like that you can own a room the way a guy like him could own a room. I mean, that's so very different than anything I could ever imagine. But if you're talking about a moment, I mean, you know, I think winning a title, you know, I mean, Peerless Price running one down, you know, as you mentioned, Combs. I mean, any of those types of things. I mean,
actually, I'd probably take that back. I'd probably rather be Ernie Grunfeld at like last call at the library in 1977.
Now that's a whole separate after dark discussion for which athlete you want to be in terms of the life that you live there. But for a particular moment, we'll keep it on the competitive state. I mean, imagine what a guy's life is like when they just kind of emerge out of nowhere and become a star, right? I mean, think about a guy like Kelly Washington. Like, it's an overnight change. I mean, everybody thought he had some talent, and then he takes on and beats LSU and breaks a school record. What's his life like the next day? You know, what's it like? What was life like for Casey Clausen after you beat Alabama in your first ever career start? Like, those would be kind of wild too. Just like going from obscurity to rock star immediately. Yeah. I mean, Dalton Connect,
or like,
right?
Or like Chase McGrath, going from, you know, the soccer player to I just beat Alabama.
And again, recency bias here, but Xander Seacrest from March to Xander Seacrest from June last year. I mean,
nobody knew who Dalton Connect was. What was Dalton Connect's life like after the Michigan State exhibition game that didn't even count? And all of a sudden, I mean, he's getting tweets by, you know, NBA stars. I mean, like, this is a guy, Rob, from Northern Colorado that
second team all conference,
and all of a sudden he's a rock star after an exhibition game in October. You know, I mean, stuff like that's pretty wild to me.
Yeah, pretty cool. Appreciate you guys sending in your questions as we do it each and every single week right here, Volquest.com on the YouTube channel, and taking your questions on the General's Quarters. Every Thursday we do a mailbag question podcast, so appreciate that. For Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. Continue the conversation for this and so much more on the General's Quarters. New subscribers to the website. Appreciate you guys for coming aboard. We have a great time, and welcome all of those rival subscribers coming over to On 3 now. We appreciate you guys, and glad to have you here with this dysfunctional family we call the General's Quarters. Again, for Rob and Brent, I'm Eric. Thanks so much for being here. This is the Volquest.com Mailbag Podcast.